Welcome to day one of the 30-day Hypnosis Biz Funnel Build Challenge. I'm Shane Falzard. So what I'm going to do is share with you some of my thinking that I've been sort of putting into day one. It's what I call the Hypnotic Entrepreneur 6M protocol. I made a whole long video that kind of teased all this out and explained all the steps, and it's a very long video, and I was like, I'm not going to get it edited in time, so this is my fast way to still be able to start day one and show you my way of thinking, my approach to things, my strategy, and also I guess some of the tools that I use. So when it comes to, step one, the 6M protocol is looking at what's my mindset. Do I have the right mindset for the journey I'm about to go on? What's my mission? What's the market that I want to appeal to? Then sort of to mine the assets that I currently have and my experience and find the gold in that and looking through that. Then we want to magnify that and so to polish it up and then to create a message. So I'll sort of start here. This is a digital whiteboard on Canva. So I'll go through it fairly fast. One of the first things I do is I make sure that I have laser-like clarity. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I have the vision for it. I've got a big vision in terms of I want to create a new opportunity for helping people that is a scalable model, and it isn't going to take up too much of my time. It can help thousands of people. Admittedly, as it scales up, my time will start to get used more, but that's okay, because as that there'll be like a free offer, a micro offer, a low tier offer, a mid tier offer, and a high ticket offer. When it gets to the high ticket offer, they are paying for my time and for my one-on-one attention. But the starting point, I want to make it scalable. And so it's starting off with that laser-like clarity rather than being a light bulb. So I don't want to diffuse my energy over a small space. I don't want to do a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. That's how I started when I first became a hypnotherapist. Is you come out and you think, I'm going to help people quit smoking. I'm going to help them lose weight. I'm going to help them sleep. I'm going to help them overcome pain. I'm going to help them overcome migraines. I'm going to help them overcome anxiety. I'm going to help them become more confident. So many different things. And you just end up being a light bulb rather than a laser. And so, by becoming a laser, you have this clarity, and there's power in clarity. Once you've got this big vision, you then start to gain the confidence to know what the steps are in front of you to get there. You've got a goal and a measurement to know whether you're on the right path or not. You then start to fortify yourself for that resilience and that discipline that's needed to go on this big journey. And also then knowing that I'm going to feel uncomfortable along the way. I'm going to be doing things and I'm going to feel clumsy. I mean, today I felt clumsy just recording these big, long videos and trying new technology, and things weren't working the way they wanted. Doesn't mean I failed at it. It's just like, okay, it's clumsy. I'm developing that conscious competence. And then being aware of my own self-sabotage patterns. We all have self-sabotage patterns. We all have blind spots. Things that we aren't aware of about ourselves, and we can sometimes rationalize these things. Like no one willfully sabotages themselves and thinks, yep, I'm sabotaging myself. It sometimes happens, and we justify things and we find reasons for things, and often it's just that part of us that's getting us to play safe and play small, rather than step forward and be big and bold and risk failure as well. So it's also then, me looking at, okay, I need to stay self-aware throughout this entire process. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to complete it. I'm waiting for things to be perfect. I'll procrastinate and things will take longer than they really should. And I think of like everything is a trick of the mind. I can trick myself into believing that I can do this, and I can trick myself into believing I can't do this. Either way is a trick of the mind. It's because it's always a future possibility, a future potentiality. And it depends on my mindset right now. The mindset I have right now will then influence the behavior that I undertake, and then that behavior will determine the results that I get in the future at some point, whether it be 10 minutes from now or 10 years from now. And then finally, I just remind myself that anyone can be an expert. You can be a reporter expert like Oprah Winfrey, like Joe Rogan. They become experts by interviewing people. And then they make that information more accessible. You can be a results coach, a results expert, and that can be a an Olympic team coach who's never won a gold medal but is able to help the team win a gold medal. And then a role model is someone that has won a gold medal and then can show people how to win their own gold medal. And so it's looking at, just knowing that any one of us can be an expert. So I kind of start with that just to really fortify my own mindset. And then I go into the mission. And so the mission is, okay, what's the story that I want to share that is relevant to what I want to build? And this is a zero to hero story. I used to run a program called World Class Speaker Training. Can't remember the name of my own program. And it was a 7-day program, and we would teach people how to deliver almost like a TED talk, but about their own content. And it had a sales pitch to it as well. So it was a TED talk with a sales pitch, because we want people to walk out and of that room, be able to run a course, a live course, and to profit from it as well and have an impact. So this is, the structure I look at, and I can, tell my story that is relevant to my the opportunity that I'm going to build. So what I am going to build is I'm going to build a self-hypnosis online program. That's what I'm going to build. So I'm going to talk about my own journey with that, and I'll go through this sort of arc. So I'm just getting really clear on what that is. Now, I've also put together a AI prompt. So if you need an AI prompt, I've got one here. It'll ask you questions, it'll interview you, and it's going to help reflect all this back to you and structure into this zero to hero story. All the world's greatest speakers typically start with their origin story or their zero to hero story or their hero's journey. And that's what this kind of loosely follows. It's not a rule, it's just a guide. So then what I do is I look at, okay, what are my skills that I have? What skills am I bringing into this? Now, a lot of this, I don't tend to sit down and do so consciously every single time, because I've done this so many times, but I'm just sharing you what is now a unconscious competency for me. But if you're wanting to follow along and you wanting to take yourself through this, you want to make a list of all the qualifications and certifications you have. Make a list of all the skills that you have. Even if it doesn't seem like they're quite relevant, they might become relevant. When I was working in the corporate space 15, 16 years ago now, I was a business analyst and I was a national sales and operations manager, throughout my entire corporate career. So being a business analyst really helped me to be able to quickly go into businesses and see the matrix of what makes them work, what doesn't make them work, how to optimize them, how to turn things up, turn things down, how to basically just analyze the entire business model. That helps me to this day to analyze my own business, but also analyze other people's business. And so I can just kind of see the matrix of what makes businesses work and not get too caught up in the weeds and the detail, because it's about getting to those core metrics and learning how to adjust them. And so, whilst you might think, well, how does being a business analyst help anyone become a hypnotherapist? It's looking at your experience. Even if you've worked in a service station or a petrol station before, there's probably some skills you learn from that you can bring into what you do now that creates your own specialized knowledge. You also want to look at what passions you have. So I always going to start to build something that I'm passionate about. I'm not just going to build something I think there's a business model behind, because you could build a successful business but be deeply depressed because you just can't be bothered doing it. It doesn't light you up. So it's looking at your passions and then looking at where that sort of middle spot is. So you look at your stories and your own experiences, you look at your strengths and your skills, and then you look at your passions and you blend them over together to find that Goldilocks spot. And if you can find that, that is ultimately the thing you want to start building your business around. And then just do a check-in with yourself, do that energetic congruency. So just ask yourself, of this thing I'm about to start, on a scale of 1 to 10, how congruent do I feel with this? How congruent do I feel that, I can be an expert in this space? And basically, if you're a 7 and above, keep going. If you're under a 7, you might need to double check on things and keep looking. You may not have found it just yet. So that's talking about the mission. So it's getting really clear on what's the mission you want to move forward with. And once you move forward that mission, then what I do is I'll then look at, okay, what's the market? So if I'm going to run a self-hypnosis program, I want to look at, okay, what other self-hypnosis programs are out there and what are people buying? So what are the solutions that they're being sold by this? And I can just go in here and we can do a Google search. We'll do self-hypnosis program. Let's just type in something and we can start to see, let's have a look at what this is. So we can pretend to be like a client or a potential client and go have a look. So, here's one that stood out, selfhypnosis.com. It's probably a really expensive URL these days. Meditation, the EOC Institute. So we can, again, look at it and go, okay, where would a client go? They would look at all these. There's a lot of things to click. I go here. I don't know which ones to go for. I'm a little bit lost. There's too many options. So, that's one competitor that we can look at. So it's really just kind of looking at, what are people buying right now? You can go to AI and you can ask AI to do it for you. So we can do Perplexity. Let's do Perplexity. We'll go here and say, give me some market analysis for the self-hypnosis for determining the financial viability of a online self-hypnosis training course. Let's just do something like that. And so Perplexity is probably going to tell us about, okay, global hypnotherapy market is going to be 70 billion by 2030. So it's a growing market. Online training hypnosis expanded rapidly. Multiple institutes. Demand is strongest around specific outcomes. So it's specific outcomes focused. Implications, focus your course on clearly defined problems and outcomes. 8 weeks self-hypnosis for anxiety and sleep. Yep. So what it's saying is generic self-hypnosis is not going to go too well, but specific self-hypnosis is going to go much better. So competitors increasingly bundle live calls. So you've got all this information here that you could, copy and save somewhere. And that's what I typically like to do, is I would take that out and I would save it as a file. Now, what you can do is take that to Notebook LM. Let's go to Notebook LM. So notebooklm.google. And I can do the same thing. I can just grab that message there. I start up a new notebook. I'll go over here where it's going to do the research and we can run that. And so it's going to give us some research. Again, I won't spend too much time on it. That's what I do is I'll collect all that research so I understand, what's the total addressable market? Is it growing? Is it declining? What are people paying already to solve this problem? Are they paying to solve this problem? And I usually put it through Google Notebook LM. I've got a little a prompt here that I've provided that can help you. You put in your business concept and it's going to pull out all the information. I then like to create 3 reports from that. So a briefing summary report, a counter-argument report, something that helps me stay aware of any, overlooked assumptions or gaps or anything like that. And I just look at some FAQs that I can produce from it. So I'm using AI to do all this, but I'm proofreading it all. And then I'm doing a competitor audit. So I'm then going and having a look. So what I would typically do is I will set up another document, and I'm going to take a list of all. So for example, this is one competitor. What I would typically do is grab their link and I would paste it into AI again and go, hey, AI, here's, so I might go into here. There we go. It's found some 7 sources. We can go import. I've now got a whole bunch of data that the AI has found for me that I can start to now sort of, make some reports from to understand the target market or the total addressable market, I should say, for self-hypnosis. Just delete that. So I've got 6 or 7. I've got actually a few in there. And then you can just kind of run reports. So tell me how viable a online self-hypnosis course could be. And it's going to look at all of those 7 sources, and it's going to come back with something. It's pretty brief what I'm doing here, but you can do some really cool things with Notebook LM. So what I tend to do, collect all the. I know what I tend to do here is I will collect some of the first ones, and then let's open up ChatGPT. So I will do this. I'll say create a competitor analysis based on these self-hypnosis sites. And then we just paste a few in here. I don't need all of that extra code. So we can go like that. We'll go for this one. Just get rid of that extra code. There we go. What else would have showed up here? So were these sponsored? Yeah, these are sponsored results. So they're just not necessarily the most popular, but they are sponsored. So they're paying for it. We'll do the recipe here. We'll do Hay House. This one's showing up. The Very Well Mind. That's an app. Tell you what, we'll grab that anyway because it is a competitor. So we can grab this. So that's what I'll tend to do is just kind of throw them in. I won't keep on doing all of them. Just go like that. And then we can run that. And it should be able to pass over those. There we go. So it's comparing them. So it's going to its thing. And so again, what I end up doing is I've got again, if you want a full prompt, there's a full prompt here that I tend to use. And from that, what I do is I create a competitor audit document. So what I would typically do is grab this, put this in, and from the output here, once it's finished, I'm going to take that out and put it into a Google document so I can then use that however I like. The goal here when you're doing a competitor analysis, what I look for is I look for the best in the world, the best in my country, and the best in my city, if I'm going to be really fast about it. And that's kind of because you're going to have people in your local area. They're going to be looking at who's best in the local area, who's best in your country, who's best in the world. Kind of just give you a feel for it. And then what I also then do is I'll typically now, I don't do this again. I've got unconscious competency in doing this. I've already got a whole bunch of books that I've read. You can maybe see a few behind me here. But if you're new to this, you want to understand what are the best-selling books on that topic that you're wanting to talk about, and go and make sure you've got your hands on some of them. And ideally, you want to have read 2 or 3 of the best-selling books in your topic so you can understand what the market is talking about. And you can also work out what you agree with and what you disagree with. Because, if let's say you're talking about habits, you're trying to talk a lot about habits and someone says, have you read Atomic Habits? And you haven't. And arguably Atomic Habits is one of the best-selling habits books right now. If you haven't read that, it can impact your credibility a little bit because people are like, hang on, I thought you were an expert in your field. Wouldn't you have read the most popular book in the world on habits? So that's where you just want to try to fortify your own confidence and your own certainty by going and making sure you've at least read those books or started to or understand what's in them. And again, I do the same sort of thing where I'll put it together. I'll do an audit on that and I'll save it as a document. So if there are some books that I haven't got my hands on, I've got that clear. And so that's kind of what I do there. So I'm really clear now on what the market potential is. Is it a growing market, dying market? Who are my competitors? What books are out that I need to start consuming? And I've just got all my ducks in a row from that perspective. Then what I do is I look at, okay, let's mine what I've currently got. So I did this. So I ran a self-hypnosis webinar masterclass just a few months ago. And I've done that for probably on and off for 8-9 years. I also used to run a course called the Hypnotherapy Certification and Marketing Program. It was a 12-week program. It was about $5,000 to do that. And so, I took some of the elements from that. So what I did is I went back through and had a look at all of my old programs that I've run. I went through my YouTube channel and I found some of the videos that were relevant to that. And so I just brought them all together to then go, okay, like what's going to be useful to use here? And I was starting to think about, okay, if I'm going to offer a self-hypnosis training program online, what other sort of complementary assets do I have that I can just attach to it and add to it? So you think about bonuses or a value stack. So I was like, okay, well, I've also taught people how to write world-class hypnosis scripts. Could that be something I bring in, or is that just a distraction from wanting to help people? So, you look at all of your assets, do an audit on it, and then work out where those items should sit, which items should just ignore, which items need a bit of work. You could use them, but they need a little bit of a twist or a coat of paint, and which are just ready to go. And then I just kind of make sure that they all have some alignment, that there's like a common thread through all of them. And so this just helps you get faster traction. Now, if you're starting out, you may not have any assets to leverage from, in which case that's okay. You start where you start. Don't compare your day one to my year 15. But if you do have something in the past, maybe a course you've run, maybe a webinar, maybe a video, maybe a template, it's anything really, a document, a blog post, maybe a Word document, whatever you've got, have a look at all of them to see what you can start to leverage on. And what I've also then do is I take all of that and I drop it into AI. Anything that's relevant, I'll drop it all into AI. And so then what I'll do is I'll go, okay, let's create all these knowledge files for each asset. So this could be my world-class hypnosis script program. Again, I don't offer that, so this is not me seeding this at all. But that could be one thing, and I just polish it up. I put it through this upscale prompt, and I save it as a knowledge file. That knowledge file now kind of tells AI, any AI platform that I use, what this asset was all about. Then I had the webinar that I ran, the self-hypnosis webinar, and then it's okay, we drop that through here, come out with a knowledge file. That knowledge file now tells AI everything about what was in that webinar, all the necessary information. And then I might have had, some other video that I had. And so you drop that video in. So I go through and I convert all of my assets that are usable into knowledge files using this upscale prompt. And then what I do is I drop those knowledge files back into Notebook LM. So we go back to Notebook LM. I'd probably set up another notebook. It's free to use. And I start dropping up into those knowledge files that I just created. And then what I can do, and I think I've got an example of it over here. Where have we got? I'll do this one here. So this is an example. I used to teach people this process called spin flow. It's like a blend between NLP and hypnosis. And so all I did was I took the full training video that I had, I transcribed it. So I basically just put it through AI and said, hey, AI, convert this to the transcription. It did that. I think it's probably just going to be, this here. Okay, so this is the spin flow technique, and it doesn't even matter if you don't even have any other skills, so it's just very conversational. It's basically exactly how I delivered it. And then I dropped it in, you can see just this one Notebook LM has one source in it, and then you can create infographics from it. So if we go back to here, that's exactly what this is suggesting to do. Drop it in, create an infographic. There's a little infographic prompt you can use here. So create an infographic that encompasses the key structure. And so I did that. And what it ended up creating was, let's go probably this one here. It created this infographic. And so I got to see my webinar as a informational graphic, a one-page graphic. I'm like, okay, great. We can capture that. Now, it's not always going to be perfect, and there might be a few spelling mistakes or some double ups, but it's a very fast way to iterate and go, okay, great. Now, what did I do with that? Is I went to a digital whiteboard and I pasted in here. As you can see it, there it is there. So I did this with a lot of my programs in the past. So my neuroquantum conditioning program I used to run, the hypno program, the self-hypno program, spin flow, the self-sabotage programs I used to run. And so I did exactly that. I went and created the knowledge files, put the knowledge files into Notebook LM, and I generated the infographic multiple times. Like this self-hypno one, there's 4 different versions of the one content, because some I liked and some I didn't like. And so there's nothing to stop you from, even though it only did spin flow once, doing that 5 or 6 times. Now, you are limited to how many times you can create an infographic per day. I don't know exactly what it is anymore. I think it's like 12. Once you create 12 infographics, you're blocked for the rest of the day, and you have to wait 24. You have to wait till the day rolls over before you can do some more. But as long as you don't use them too crazily, you should be fine. And what that does is it then gives me a visual whiteboard to see all of my content that I can then use and how it's being visualized. And I can go, okay, do I like that? What do I like about that? What don't I like about that? I look at this, does it use the right brand colors? Did it get all the steps correctly? I can regenerate this. I can just go, let's go. Usually will show me the infographic prompt, but no, let's do the infographic here. So we'll just go up here, grab this, go back here, do infographic, paste it in. Now I can make it detailed. Let's make it detailed. We'll show you the difference. Detail's very detailed. Let's run that. And so that's my way of working is I like to be very visual. I like to be able to see things all at once. When you have a digital whiteboard, like you can see here, I can zoom in and zoom out. Now, what I haven't shown you yet is this kind of helps me understand, okay, what am I creating here? I'm going to create my zero to hero story and I'm going to save that as a knowledge file. That relates to back up here. And you got your zero to hero prompt. So you create your knowledge file from, you pull out the output here, save it as a document somewhere. So you know, okay, I've got that as an asset or as a resource. Your competitor's briefing summary, the counter-argument report, the FAQ report, the competitor audit, the market education audit, which is like about the books. And then I've got my knowledge file for asset A, my knowledge file for asset B, my knowledge file for asset C. I'll then polish them up into a strategic brief, which is this part. Where is it? Down here. Yep, down here. So you're then just polishing them up even more. And if you want to, take the idea and make sure it sort of fits this, a one big idea, wow factor, and steps to the result. A little bit of a double up with what's coming next. But it helps you, just polish everything up with the power of AI much faster to go, that's what I was trying to convey. That it's based on the seed of your own information. So it's still authentically your information. The spin flow infographic is based on my information and my technique. It's just expressing it in a way that it would have taken me hours to explain how to do that to a graphic designer and cost me hundreds of dollars to do that. Whereas AI, we can do that in minutes. Now, let's see if this is finished over here. Not quite yet. And so that's my philosophy to this, is put it all on a digital whiteboard so you can zoom in, zoom out. I even link in the documents, so it's hard to see because it's a little bit pixelated, but that is one of the documents to the Google Drive or the Google document. So you can grab your Google document link, you paste it into your digital whiteboard, and it should appear there. So it's almost like it becomes this doorway to all the information that you want. So that's what I recommend. That's what I did to really get clear on all of my content. To go, okay, now what that does, it helps me really polish up everything. Now what I want to do is selectively take that information, the stuff that is going to be relevant. So not all of this is going to be relevant. Spin flow is not going to be relevant to my main offer. Self-sabotage is not really going to be relevant to the main offer. But what I may do is I might use the spin flow and I might use a self-sabotage as either upsells or bump offers. So a bump offer in marketing or an upsell. An upsell is where they say yes to one thing and then it's, hey, for this extra $47, you can get this other thing as well. That's an upsell. A bump offer is where you purchase something and then as you purchase it, it says, click this button and you get this extra thing on it. That's a bump. You just bump up the offer. So I might use them as that. Again, they're already pre-created. They're not going to take much of my time. There's still a lot of value in them. And so, it's just going to be that question of, is it going to be relevant? At what point do I bring that in? Is it the right thing to bring in? But I'm just putting them there because I want to keep them on my radar. I want to make sure that they're there and I can see them and they're already sort of polished up as I need them to be. And then what I'm doing is moving to the final part, which is the message. So I'll get really, really super clear now, laser-like clarity on understanding what's my hook. So what's that first concept that I need to be able to explain to people that just hooks them in? What's the wow factor? So what's going to make my offering different from all the rest? So I'm going to pull in some of that competitor analysis now and make sure that mine does stand out. It's the blue ocean market versus the red ocean market. Red ocean means there's a lot of sharks in the water, a lot of blood in the water, a lot of competitors. Blue ocean means you're the only one in the world that does A, B, and C for X, Y, and Z. And so they can't shop on price. They either come to you because they believe in what you're doing or they don't. And they can't get that thing anywhere else. So that's the power of that one there. And then you want to come up with your unique framework. So what's a framework that makes your content proprietary, that it's like you own it? It's like your RTT we're all very familiar with. It'd be, I think, there's different different techniques that have been sort of coined or become their intellectual property. And also not only just for that, but it makes it more memorable, makes it a stickier idea. It's like the 6M protocol that I'm walking you through right now. I'm not doing that because I want to, protect it and keep it for myself, stop anyone else from using it. I do it because it's more memorable. You instantly know, there's 6M, there's 6 steps to it, and they all start with an M. That's at least a starting point to help you memorize it. So it's doing that sort of thing. And then this message map prompt, you can copy and paste and use this. And so eventually what it does is it pulls all that information out, summarizes it into a message map document. Then I'm like, okay, great. Now I've got that. And so what I walk away with from day one is all of these documents. So I understand what my zero to hero story is that's relevant to this. I understand the competitor sort of landscape, some FAQs, what those competitors are doing, how much they're charging, what their delivery model is. I know what books I have read and what books I haven't yet read and what books I need to reread, just to brush up on some of the information. I've then understood what my assets are. I've polished them up. I've converted them into knowledge files. I've built them into some white papers and strategic briefs. So I'm really clear on that again to help AI move that forward when I need to. I put it all into a Canva whiteboard so I can see everything. I've got the infographics there. I've got all the links to to the documents. And now I've got that message map. And that takes me through day one. And then I'm ready to move into day 2. So what I'm going to encourage you to do from here is just comment and let me know what's one thing that stood out to you from this video. I know I've covered a lot. I wanted to show you my way of thinking, my strategy, and more importantly, also, visually show you what I do and how I do it. But I'd love to hear from you because I think that the more you engage with something like this, the more it is one of the principles of learning. One of the principles of learning is to represent the information. So, rather than me say, hey, tell me 10 things that you're taking away from this, what I'd encourage you to do is I think it's called the golden habit rule, I think, something like that, the golden habit, which is find something you can do that's only going to take 2 minutes. And so what I encourage you to do is build a habit that anytime you're learning, whether it be from me or someone else, or every time you're watching a video here, or anything you're doing with anyone else, any video you watch, write one thing, whether it be a YouTube video, whatever it is, write one thing that you learn that stood out to you the most from that video. And you're not necessarily doing it for them, although it will help them with their algorithm because it's the engagement, especially if it's on YouTube, but you're helping yourself. You are taking that part of the information even deeper. So that's what I will encourage you to do right now is comment, let me know what's one thing that stood out to you from watching this video, what's one thing you need to take action on. And if you've got any questions, leave it in the comments as well, and I'll see you for day 2. Bye now.